But to make it brief, Cenk Uygur, the head of TYT, recently hath forboten me from appearing on any TYT shows because, in part, I said that him capitulating to right-wing framing on many issues meant he was, quote, acting like a bitch.
Have you ever noticed how some people turn burning bridges into their career and then whine about the smoke? Yes, that is the topic of our discussion today. Longtime Young Turks contributor Francesca Fiorentini has been formally removed from the network. She isn't leaving peacefully, as expected. Instead, she is creating a story in which Kasparian is the new face of right-wing extremism. TYT is the antagonist, and she is the victim. If it weren't so obvious, it would be amusing. There's more to this than a little network conflict behind the scenes. It's a prime illustration of what occurs when progressive politics get out of control. Francesca intentionally removed herself from the platform that made her, started attacks, and disseminated smears. And she wants pity now? We'll go into the specifics of what transpired, why she was dismissed, the veracity of her contractor accusations, and why Kasparian has become a target for just exercising critical thought and maturation. This isn't about vices on the left. Yes, this is about responsibility, honesty, and the complete breakdown of common sense in morally superior media circles. So fasten your seatbelt. Since the receipts are so clear, it is ineffective to play the victim, which is why we are dissecting the TYT collapse today.
I'll make this as brief as possible because there are a million far more important and pressing things going on right now. As you know, actual fascism. But to make it brief, Cenk Uygur, the head of TYT, recently hath forboten me from appearing on any TYT shows because, in part, I said that him capitulating to right-wing framing on many issues meant he was, quote, acting like a bitch.
Recently, Francesca Fiorentini asked us at TYT to take her podcast, The Habituation Room, off the network, and we happily agreed to that. And today, I'm going a little further, and I'm going to take Francesca off the network entirely. So you won't see her on any of the TYT shows going forward.
I'll explain that a little bit later. But first, some backstory. So I have been a contractor at TYT for 10 years now, appearing on all of the shows as a fill-in host, as a guest host during election coverage, on the TYT main show, on the Damage Report, and on Indisputable, along with a lot of other shows. I have always hopped on at the last minute, always helped out in a pinch. I guest host last minute, and yes, I was paid. And if you're watching this and you are a TYT contributor and you are not getting paid, stop going on TYT until you do. I've never been a full-time employee, never got healthcare, never got maternity leave when I had my child. But back in 2018, I was hired for a 6-month contract to pilot a show for $3,000 a month. Then, however, their funding bottomed out and I was let go. And they broke their contract. My reps at the time thought I should sue to get the full 6 months of payment and work that I was owed. But I didn't, because I told them that TYT was good people and I wanted to maintain my relationship.
There was more to Francesca Fiorentini's departure from the Young Turks than a simple resignation. It was a well-thought-out publicity stunt disguised as victimization. She claimed to have already asked for her podcast to be removed off the TYT platform because of the network's alleged unethical practices. Nevertheless, TYT presented the situation as though she had been caught off guard and in error when she actually ended her appearances completely. This is the traditional bait-and-switch tactic used by progressive grifters. Attack the organization, sever ties on your own terms, and then turn it into a sob tale when the inevitable fallout occurs. Despite the very possible probability that she planned her own departure, she presented herself as a victim of corporate callousness. Based on this study, Francesca Fiorentini's work history shows a concerning pattern of dishonest behavior. Despite having been a contractor with TYT for more than 10 years, she has now portrayed their connection as exploitative after turning down several full-time job offers, including a high-paying one from Al Jazeera, before it became politically advantageous to portray oneself as a worker denied security and benefits. She relished the freedom and flexibility of contractor status. Even worse, she deliberately disparaged TYT leadership on her podcast, which TYT kept disseminating and then pretended to be innocent when her remarks ultimately led to her termination. This isn't journalism with principles. It's martyrdom disguised as opportunism.
Have had sometimes bad luck, like with AJ Plus and stuff. I mean, it's
No,
just,
I really didn't actually. I just am allergic to money, Emma. Just don't worry about it. I left
I'm
AJ
just trying to
Plus.
say
AJ Plus
is you're so
offered
deserving,
me.
and it's
AJ
just,
Plus
it's-
offered me in 2018 when they were moving to DC a very handsome salary that I turned down because I had been there for at that point 4 years and I wanted to move on, and I wanted to move to LA. So that's what happened to me. And I moved to LA not for TYT. I moved to LA to actually like pitch more shows, do more comedy, meet more people, get managers and agents and whatnot. And I did. So that is, I've had a lot of luck, and I've also turned a lot of down. So I just want to name that. And I did. That is until things started to turn for TYT politically. And this started happening around the pandemic. Around the pandemic, Anna Kasparian seemed to become focused on the issue of homelessness, especially in a city that I used to call home, which is San Francisco. She had an objectively scary experience with an unhoused person, and in fact, I went back to see when she told her audience about this. And I do remember the day that Anna told the story on air. In fact, I was also on after she told that story, but I didn't hear it at the time. It was within an interview that she was doing with an author by the name of Michael Schellenberger, who had written the book San Francisco, Why Progressives Are Ruining Cities. Instead of focusing on housing market prices, on how homelessness often leads to things like addiction and mental illness, Schellenberger focuses on Democrats who thinks go too easy on the unhoused. I remember that I jumped onto the show right after he got off, after that interview, and the TYT audience was really pissed because they felt like the framing and the platforming of someone like Schellenberger was a disservice to the issue of homelessness, mental illness, and addiction.
Longtime TYT employee Anna Kasparian has experienced a noticeable shift in her beliefs, particularly on issues like homelessness, crime, and policing. Progressive purists like Francesca have relentlessly attacked her for this. Let's be clear, Anna is evolving, not selling out. Her opinions have changed based on life experiences and a developing political perspective. Some on the left fiercely protect a strict narrative, as seen in Francesca's criticisms, including downplaying Anna's experience with sexual assault by a homeless individual. They portray it as a minor inconvenience caused by homelessness, rather than supporting a colleague. The debate over homelessness highlights ideological deviations from reality. While progressives like Francesca blame high rent and corporate greed, untreated mental illness and substance abuse are often underlying causes. Anna Kasparian and guest Michael Schellenberger advocate for a shelter-first approach, prioritizing safety, treatment, and stability over permanent housing, offering a more balanced view. This stance challenges the victim-centric worldview of far leftists, who reject such measures. Tensions within TYT, once praised for independent progressive media, now reflect ideological rigidity and internal conflicts. Criticism, especially from breakaway members like Francesca, accuses TYT leadership, particularly Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur, of not conforming strictly to progressive doctrine. Francesca Fiorentini's use of victimhood narrative is prominent in her messaging, portraying herself as an underdog despite past public roles and criticisms. Her conflicts within TYT illustrate a pattern of attacking colleagues and claiming victimhood. Criticism of her actions isn't oppression, but accountability. TYT's decision to part ways with Francesca wasn't arbitrary, but due to her conduct. She now uses backlash for content, but accountability remains part of public discourse. Anyway, that's my take. Let me know yours down in the comments, whether you agree, disagree, or find yourself somewhere in between. Just keep it real. And I'll catch you in the next one.